Welcome to Coach's Corner of Michigan. Today's podcast is brought to you by Stream Cortex for all your hockey needs. I'm your host, Andy Weidenbach. Today's guests are former Brighton High School head coach Paul Moggach, along with three of his former players, Logan Neaton, Colin Bielik, and former player and current head coach, Kurt Kivisto. Welcome, guys. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today, and we're looking forward to kind of digging through your life here and telling your story. First of all, I'd like to start with Paul, and then we'll talk about Colin and Kurt and Logan. But Paul, welcome to the show, and I'm looking forward to chit-chatting with you here and kind of reminiscing. We've had some good battles over the years and enjoyed playing against your teams.
Great to be here, Andy. As I talked to you earlier, I think you were the one that I sort of idolized in terms of what you did with high school hockey. And so it's a pleasure to be here and to bring three of my best with me.
Yeah, I read the bios, and I was aware of some of the back end of their stories, but I wasn't aware of the front end, how they got to where they were, and I think it's going to be interesting when we get to that. So, but first of all, I'd like to talk about your accomplishments a little bit. 32 years as a head coach, 8 years as an assistant, 40 years as a high school coach. That's pretty significant. I'm sure you've touched the lives of lots of kids. 867 total games, 679 as a head coach, 5 state championships, 7th MSHA all-time winningest coach is seventh of all time. So with 467 wins, that's quite an accomplishment in itself. I mean, just the longevity alone is amazing, and I'm sure you've turned the reins over to Kurt, but he's able to keep this thing going for Brighton High School. But I think one of the cool things that I really was impressed with Brighton High School is, teams always take on the personality of their coach. And, I think you were known as one of the good guys. Your teams, they played the right way. They played hard, but they didn't take a lot of penalties. They were respectful to the integrity of the game and the officials and their opponents. And win, lose, or draw, they were always pretty level-headed, fun to play against. And I guess from your perspective, you played in the Cranbrook Thanksgiving tournament many years, and we had some good battles. Any great memories from that tournament?
Oh yeah, a lot of my. I guess the one that I recall the best was you would always assign the home team and who got to your off ice officials, and we had a year where we played U of D in I think the semis, and Mike Beller, who was one of our dads, was running the clock, and it got down to I think like 3 seconds left in the game, and a puck in U of D's end. We ended up scoring a goal in 5 seconds, but the clock had not run out. So it was pandemonium at the box, and I just remember that we went back and looked at the video and gave them. We said it was a tie or whatever it was, but what I've always remembered about that is we've never been the home team since. You don't forget.
I don't remember if that was by design or it might have been. I don't know, but that's a good one.
I don't know if we're still in it, but I think that's we'll always have that. We'll always be visitors.
Yeah, you'll never run the clock again.
No,
that's good. I love that. I know that. In high school hockey, it's an extension of the classroom. It's an interscholastic sport, and the role of the coach is much different in high school hockey than it is maybe in junior hockey or maybe in AAA hockey. We have a lot more responsibility to the players. You're monitoring what they're doing in the classroom, their behavior at school. Can you tell us a little bit about, your role as the coach at Brighton and how all those pieces fit together?
Sure. Well, I started as an assistant with Rick Bourbonnais back in '88 or whatever it was. We had coached a little bit together at different ages in the Livingston County Hockey Association. So I got to know Rick, and I played on a men's league team with him. And he got the job as the head coach at Brighton. And about a year and a half in, one of his assistants left, couldn't do it anymore. So he called me and asked me to come help. And it was interesting because back in those days, Brighton was not respected at all. We couldn't get games with any decent teams. And I remember Rick telling me, he'd call and they'd almost hang up on him. So, we had to work with changing the environment, changing the culture. And it was a real challenge. I mean, there were kids who were there that really were there for the wrong reason. So we put a lot of discipline in, and over time that changed. So Rick and I worked it together. And during that period of time, I had my three sons played on teams until I think Damon ended up in '95. But anyway, having three boys there was a challenge for me. But we learned from the players that had preceded us, and they got to the point where we beat Trenton 2-1 when they were ranked number one to go to the semis. So we got better, and we got better by watching others and taking care of each other. But as that progressed, Rick, my friend and associate, he retired, and when he retired, I got the job and hired him back as an assistant. And where I'm going with this is, I think the consistency that we've had at Brighton has included Rick. Rick's been there a lot of years. Myself, Mike Brown, who was a friend, and his son played on our team, Gordy Brown. Our sons grew up together, and we added Jason Valenti and Kurt. So I think of all those years that the program has been in place, there have only been 5 coaches. And I think that consistency has really helped us to be who we are. I think we tried to establish the discipline and the kind of game that you talked about earlier, that we would gain the respect and keep the respect of others. So I think that longevity has played well. And now in Kurt, even being an assistant for 10 years, a lot longer than he should have been, for sure. But I think that consistency brought us success. And I can't say that enough. I really appreciate those guys, and I think success in life. And I'm sure that Logan and Colin know this as well. You have to surround yourself with good people, and when you surround yourself with good people, good things happen, not just for you, but for those people as well. And so that's been, I think, the reason that from my perspective, Brighton's been successful is that I've had great people to be with and around, and great players and parents and coaches and administrators, whatever it takes. I was lucky to have good people to be with. And I think that's the secret to life is the people you hang out with.
I think you just described my path as well. Like when I started coaching high school hockey in '93, I came out of the OHL, and it's a whole different ball of wax there. Your goals and objectives are a little bit different, but yeah, we did the same thing. I mean, we had to change the culture, and I agree. I was asked that same question, and the entire the bottom block in our the foundation of our program was built on discipline, and I couldn't agree more with your team. They were one of the teams that they were fun to play against, and again, I would say they take on the personality of the coach or the coaching staff, and they were always very respectful of the integrity of the game, and they were fun to play against. But again, I think, changing the culture is very difficult, right? And it starts with discipline and respect. And, the Brighton teams were always noted for that. Always noted for that. That's why we love playing you guys in our tournament, even though we had to make you the visiting team because you didn't have people that understood how to run the clock. But other than that, it was a good bunch of guys.
Maybe we were cheating a little bit there, but we didn't.
Well, I think the other team thought that, but I never thought that. But, yeah, that's a good story. I do remember that. I also remember some overtime games there where we had some great battles. But
for sure.
So there's some parents probably going to listen to this show, and they're going to, and maybe this is a good question for Kurt too, because his path to success was definitely on the road less traveled. And had mega success in hockey, both as a player and as a coach. But, there's kids out there, there's parents out there that, they got a 13 or a 14-year-old kid and they're thinking like, their friends are telling them there's only one way you can get to be successful. And as you know, back in the day, there was a stigma with high school hockey that, back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, if you played high school hockey, it was a dead end street. And of course, that's not the case today. But, now that stigma is a little bit with JV hockey, but, if there's some parents out there of players that are 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old, what are you telling them? Why high school hockey?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons to play in, especially as a young kid, there's a lot of value in playing, especially early in your high school career. You're a 14, 15-year-old kid. Suddenly you're playing against 17, 18-year-old kids. So there's a lot of development on the front end of your high school career. Secondly, you're playing for something a little bit bigger than yourself. You're playing for a town, a community, your schoolmates, and that type of stuff. And there's a ton of value in those experiences. The fun factor is incredible. It's one of those experiences you don't get elsewhere. And, it's a tremendous amount of fun and a great experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think there's more to it than they always say. You're playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the back of the jersey. And I couldn't agree with you more. And, I think in a lot of cases, you get more opportunity in high school hockey, right? Like, this is the hand you're dealt. And so you have to develop these players. You just can't go out and find guys to replace them. They're in your school district and, these are the kids that are on your team and you have to make them better. You're forced to be a better coach as opposed to being a recruiter, like in junior hockey, you're recruiting. But, I think it's made better coaches in high school. And I think over the years, maybe Paul, you could comment on this, but, since your coaching days back in the, 80s and 90s, I mean, you've seen high school hockey really change a lot for the better because of, some of the things that, the flagship teams, I guess, the Trentons, the Brother Rices, the Cranbrooks, the Brightons, Livonia Stevenson, all those teams have brought the quality of high school hockey up, not only as teams, but as coaches. There's some really good young coaches now. So what's your comment on that? What have you seen over the years?
Well, I think, exactly what you've experienced, Andy, and that is, we didn't have the exposure. We didn't have the caliber of players back in the day, and we didn't have even a reputation that we could do it. But I think as those good teams, I mean, even you mentioned all those teams, even Ann Arbor Pioneer back in the day was a good team. It changes over time, but I think what really has to happen is there has to be a culture that in an environment that's established where parents want to bring their kids to our programs. The player that they bring to us, they would die for. I mean, that's where they're at, and they're not going to give their kid over to somebody or a program that's not going to make them better and help them to be the best version of themselves possible. So I think that's what I've seen over time, and I think specifically it's being curious as how we can do it better. I know the Coaches Association now has done a great job, I believe, in marketing our programs, and I think that's going to help us long term. But the success of guys like Kurt and Logan and Colin and all the players in high school hockey now who have gone on to show that you can do it there. But I think the percentage that can go and play after high school is small in comparison to those that can't. And so I think it's really what do we provide those all the 100% of the players, and the return on the investment. I think it's the return on the investment. So your time is the most important thing that you own. And if the time that you put into playing a sport, whether it's high school hockey or football or whatever, it's what do you get back from that? And it's learning to be a team, learning to how to win, learning sometimes how to be a graceful loser, but learning always about how to make yourself better. And I think that parents are looking for that experience, although they are taken kind of off track with coaches at certain levels that think that that's the only way. High school provides the avenue. I think that they can be not only successful in their community, in their school, and in their sport, but also in life. And I think that's where that return comes from. When we practice usually at 4:30 every day, we practice 4 times a week. The practice to game ratio is what it should be, not what some of the travel teams are doing. We are home on the weekends for the most part, unless we've got a game someplace, but we only travel a couple times a year, once to Trenton and once to the UP. So for the most part, they're home. They're part of their community. They're part of their school, have the routines that I think are healthy. So I really think that's been a lot of growth. And if I were a parent, I'd be looking at the return on investment in terms of time, in terms of financial, if you want to look at it that way. But just what's the best space a kid can be in to work through the high school years, which are challenging at best. So I think that's kind of where I'm landing on that.
I couldn't agree more. I think you could probably sum that up in one word if you just said the lifestyle, right? The lifestyle of a high school player. Yeah. It couldn't be any better. We practice 4 days a week. We have 2 games, Friday and Saturday nights usually. You're home Sunday, take a day off. It kind of mocks a college schedule a little bit without the travel, obviously. But, yeah, I think the lifestyle of a high school player is great. I think the opportunities that high school players get, they'd get more opportunity rather than being pigeonholed as a third line, checker. I mean, in high school hockey, you're going to get an opportunity to learn and to grow. And as you come up through the ranks, you start out as a freshman or sophomore, maybe you're playing a year of JV or 2. And I think, the development is critically important. I wanted to talk about Kurt a little bit. I was reading his bio and like I said, I kind of knew the older Kurt, based on, his years at Michigan State and all the accolades he got there and his playing career. And I know he's a great coach, but I didn't realize that, he started playing, house league hockey and took a few years off and was a manager of the team. And definitely was the road less traveled. And when you look at the back end of his career or what he did in high school and after high school, it is absolutely amazing, because if people would see that, they wouldn't believe it. I mean, he must have been a heck of an athlete. I know he's a heck of a coach. I've watched him on the bench with your teams many times. And maybe you could comment on his journey a little bit, and then we'll let him comment on it as well.
Yeah. So when you read the bio, you see he was played house hockey and then came in with us as a manager. He managed as a freshman in his freshman year and played on the house team. And then 3 years of varsity, which were successful. When Kurt came in, he was 5'7", 140 pounds. So was Bielek, and I think if Logan was probably as a freshman too. There's something in the water here. We know how to water the flowers because they all grow up to be not good people, good people. And I would say for all three of these guys, I know we'll get to the other two in a bit, but Kurt hated to lose. He just hated to lose. He still hates to lose. When we were coaching together, we'd be walking over to the locker room in between the first and second period or something. I could hardly talk to him sometimes. He was so mad. He just really has a passion for not to win, but to compete. If you don't compete, you don't have a chance to win. So, I mean, Kurt came in with that. I remember in the freshman year, we were over at Grand Oaks Arena at the time, and about halfway through the season, we were doing drills, and Kurt was leading them. He was up front. He wasn't waiting in the back for his turn. He got up there and did it. And I think that's the other thing about Kurt. He had a competitive attitude that was way above anybody else's. Passion for the game, which he still has, and he wants to help others get better. So I think those are the things that I saw in him, and he. I remember one other story. I'll tell you one other story about Kurt. I remember one of his friends who was a defenseman on the team who wasn't working hard in practice. I blew the whistle and get him in there, and as they come to the board, Kurt just levels this guy. And from the ice, the other player, Kurt says, "If you don't start working, I'm going to do this every time Coach blows the whistle." I mean, that's that's what he expected that, and I think these guys did too. When we get to their turn, it'll be the same. I mean, they expect that others will do their best, and when they don't, they try to convince them how to do it.
It's a good thing you didn't do that. You'd be in jail today. Anyway, the thing that I was reading Kurt's bio here, and I was really impressed with this. I mean, he has great stats. He's all-state, dream team, MVP, all this stuff. But I see his sophomore year, Coach's Character Award. Junior year, Coach's Character Award. Senior year, Coach's Character Award. I mean, that says a lot about a guy. I mean, Andy Green was that guy at Trenton, right? He goes to Miami. He becomes the captain. I think he was a captain at Miami as a sophomore. I mean, when you win the Character Award, I mean, that says a lot about not only the guy as a player, but it says a lot about him as a person. And having him hold his teammates accountable, I think carries a lot of weight when you're the character guy on the team. So I can see where that's a huge benefit to having that guy on your team when you're the head coach and he's holding his players accountable, but still he's the character guy on the team. So I think that's a really good quality in a player. But I'm going to ask Kurt, so how did playing high school hockey, prepare you for juniors and college and maybe being a high school coach? What's your take on that?
I'll be honest with you. I don't even recall the path. Like, junior hockey wasn't even on the radar when I was playing high school hockey. It was just, you're kind of in the moment at the time. And the Ambassadors had a team at Compu there, and we watched them, and there were some local kids that played there, but it wasn't even on my radar at the time. And, we just played because it was fun. And we weren't playing to look for junior hockey opportunities, and we weren't necessarily exposed to it. A ton of high school guys, other than Damon and Mike Skidzinski, that were, about 8 years ahead of us at Brighton had done it. So it wasn't really out there for us at the time. We just played. It was fun. We didn't know any better. And Todd Johnson had helped out with going to the Prospects tournament in Toronto, and some other kids were tendered and had a good tournament up there. And one thing kind of led to the other. So it wasn't something that I was chasing. It kind of just fell into place with some help from some other good high school coaches like Todd Johnson, and Scott Locke was helping at the time, and Bill Burns taking us up there. So it was interesting how it all worked out, and it was never the goal as I was playing in high school.
Yeah, what's interesting is, a lot of guys, I think they're watching the sand run through the hourglass, and they're thinking, I'm playing high school hockey, but I can't wait to play junior hockey. Then when they get to junior hockey, I'm playing junior hockey, and I can't wait till it's over so I can go to college. And I think they watch the sand run through the hourglass. And for the guys who don't make those steps, I mean, I think they must feel a whole lot of pressure, whereas like what you said, you're just enjoying the game, and it took care of itself. The path took care of itself because you were a good player and you're having fun, enjoying it, and probably didn't feel the pressure that some of these kids feel from their coaches or their parents or whatever. And I think that's another benefit of playing high school hockey. I think it's more about team than it is about me. And so I liked what you said before. And I think that holds true, and we'll probably find that true to be true with the other guys when we talk to them. But was there anything that got you excited? After your playing days, you're coaching with your old coach, you're an assistant, and now you're the head coach of the program. You're the maestro. Is there anything that got you excited about now you're the head coach? What's it feel like? What was that like?
I don't know that it was, overly exciting. Like Paul and I had such a great relationship and we worked together for so many years. It wasn't like it was anything new. We worked side by side as a team. It wasn't, he did one thing, I did the other. We worked together as a group. So really it was a seamless transition. And, the only bad part is he wasn't there for the ride last year. And, last year being the first year, it was, it was new in the sense that he wasn't there, but it wasn't new for me because, I'd been there for 10 years as an assistant with him and, being around when I was playing, doing our camps and stuff in the summer, and then my time as a player. So realistically, I've been part of the Brighton program for over half my life. So it's been, it's been a pretty easy transition to the head coaching position.
Yeah, I know you guys have a great history, you and Paul and all the other guys that have coached in the program. And like Paul mentioned earlier, there's only been 5 coaches there in all those years. And, it's a pretty stable program. He's passed the baton on to you, and you've done a great job there. I know Cranbrook won the state championship this year at the D3 level. And a lot of those kids that, I retired 2 years ago, but a lot of those kids were on our JV team my last year coaching. And now those guys were the captains. They transitioned up the ladder and they won a state championship. I wasn't there to see it. I live down here in Florida, but, I was really proud of the fact that, things go on and the program's been successful. And John's doing a great job there. And I'm sure Paul feels that way about when you guys, all the success that you've had since he's retired. So it's really fun to see that legacy continue. And I know, you'll keep that going for years to come. And congratulations on a great program there.
Thanks.
I want to sort of transition over to Colin a little bit, if you guys don't mind here. And I'm looking at his resume and his bio, and here's another guy that played 2 years of JV, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at that and I see the success, and we've had many kids in our program do the same thing, right? I know Mac McEachran played 2 years of JV at Brighton or at Brother Rice, and he spent a number of years in the NHL. Casey Wellman played JV for us. He played in the NHL. Patrick Brown is now playing in the NHL. He played a year of JV for us. So I look at Colin's bio here and I see he played 2 years of JV, and people think that that's a dead end street. Can you comment on that, Colin, a little bit about your years on the JV team and how that's helped prepare you for varsity, and now you're playing college hockey? I mean, it's a remarkable it's a remarkable way to get there compared to the typical route where kids would maybe play at a high level of travel hockey and play 80 games a year. So can you comment on your years at Brighton?
Yeah, of course. I think that kind of what Kurt touched on about kind of just playing hockey and having fun with it. I think that was a huge thing for me in high school, was those first 2 years that I was playing on the JV team. I was never really thinking that, oh man, there's no way I'm ever going to get to college or get to junior hockey. I just believed that it was just kind of a stepping stone from where I was playing. I played AA travel hockey. I never played AAA growing up. So playing JV and then being one of the younger guys on the team and playing with with older folks, like that helped my development immensely. So after I played my freshman year at JV, I played another year at JV. And I mean, you think that you're staying stagnant. Obviously, it's disappointing when you don't get to make the varsity team. But when you finally make the varsity team, it's just another jump. I mean, I believe that I was a really late bloomer in my hockey career, but when I was playing in high school, it was just always just taking those steps, just continuing to develop my game. But kind of again, what Kurt said, like you're never really thinking like, man, I'm never going to make it just because I'm playing JV. Like nobody's looking at, in my perspective, like nobody was looking at me when I'm playing JV hockey or when I was never getting recruited when I was playing varsity hockey. So it was just kind of all part of the developmental process that you just stay patient with. And you know, if just kind of developing through my high school years, I mean, it opened up a door to go play junior hockey and just continue to develop my own game.
I think you hit the nail on the head, you know, being patient. Everybody develops at a different time. I know some kids are 14 years old and they're fully developed physically. And, you know, I know when Eric Lindros played for me, he was a 17-year-old. He was 6'5" and weighed 230 pounds. You know, he was just unbelievable. And he looked like a man playing with boys when he was 17. But yeah, everybody develops at a different time. I think if you're patient, and I see a common denominator here with the three guys that we're talking to today, Paul, is they all played JV hockey, and it seems to me they all played for the right reasons. They were having fun, and they weren't in the pressure cooker. And a lot of these kids today are in the pressure cooker. You know, you got to get to here, you got to get to there. They have a path that's, you know, set out for them. I think they're set up to fail. You know, they don't enjoy the game, and I think in the case of Colin and Logan and Kurt, you know, you guys have all enjoyed the game and let nature take its course, and I think that takes a lot of pressure off you. You have anything, Colin? Anything you'd like to maybe talk about your experiences with Paul as a coach?
Yeah, of course.
Like, yeah. Did he bag skate you a lot? Was he mean to you? Did he?
Of course, we did skate a lot. I don't know.
We want some dirt.
I got no dirt on Coach, but no, playing for both Coach and Kurt throughout high school, like I mean, playing in the Brighton program. No matter what, if I was playing JV or playing varsity, you do feel a part of something that is much bigger than yourself. And it's kind of crazy because when you played, like, especially when I played varsity, I knew that I wanted to go play junior hockey. But I never at one point was I ever thinking like, man, kind of what you're talking about, like that the like that pressure that you're feeling. I never felt like pressure, like, oh man, I got to play well this game because like, or whatever showcase, the Trenton showcase or whatever, I got to play well at the showcase because man, I'm not going to get a shot to play junior hockey or anything like that. So just playing at the Brighton program, it was just always about team first. I remember we'd always just focus on, I forget, Coach, I couldn't say, I want to say I was like team like 34 or whatever, but we always had the team number. Like what?
You were team.
Is that what it was? Yeah. What a good, yeah, good. Dude, I got a good memory then. But like, it was always about the team. It was always about the team and playing for Coach. Like, I think that from a leadership proponent, it was huge for me to develop my leadership skills playing at Brighton and playing under Coach because you know, leadership's hard, and being a leader at Brighton, it's obviously you're playing for a powerhouse program. I think the 2 years, my freshman and sophomore years, I watched them win 2 state championships. My junior year, we went to the state championship, and then my senior year, I was captain, and we didn't make it to CompuWare. And you know, being a leader on a team that or in an organization that is all about winning, is all about family. It was just huge for my development as a hockey player, but also as a person because. I mean, you learn a lot from being around Coach and being around Kurt, guys who really are passionate about the game, and I was really fortunate to come play through the Brighton program. There's not a lot of guys that have the location, I guess, like of good high school programs to come up through. So I was pretty lucky and fortunate to play at Brighton and play for these two guys, because not only is it a blast playing for your community, like Kurt said, but it's also a pretty huge contributor to development of you, like as a hockey player, and more importantly as a human being.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the life skills you learn in high school hockey are, they're critically important, and they're going to stay with you forever and ever. So, I look at your bio here, and you've done some amazing things, and it shows. Again, the character of the kids that play in the Brighton program. There is a common denominator there. It's all about team, and you can see it. And you can see it on the ice. There's a method to the madness. You can see that the discipline is there. And, you guys are all a byproduct of that, and many others as well. So it's a great program. I want to.
Andy, could I just say one thing here?
Absolutely.
About Colin. So, obviously he's respected. I know they retired his jersey on his junior team, and now he's in his senior year, he's the second year captain, which that's at West Point. Really, that's unbelievable that he's a captain in his second year at West Point. But when I was going through Team 34 book, because we have books on all these guys, I found something that I'd like to share with you. I'm going to read this. These are my thoughts before the banquet in his senior year. Colin was the life of the party. He was good wherever we asked him to go. When a forward line wasn't going, we put Colin in, and they got better immediately. His compete level was unmatched, and his work ethic was excellent. He was a servant leader, and they always make the best captains. When sticks would go on the bus, they were often on his shoulder. Colin is a great two-way player, blocked shots, finished checks, and orchestrated our off-ice activities. He was a coach's and a player's type of player. I think a student leader, and all these guys were captains, and all of them were servant leaders. I think being a servant leader is a key to, I think, what we try to instill in them at Brighton. Just because you're the best player, just because you're the captain, doesn't mean you don't do the work. And all three of these guys did all of that. So I think for Colin, Logan, and Kurt, they all exemplify that.
Yeah, absolutely. These bios are really impressive, and we won't be able to share everything that's in the bio, but when I received them and read through them, they're very impressive. I know. In my agreement with your what you just said, when we at the end of our season, what we used to do is we used to have like a exit interviews with the players, and we would try to figure out who we're going to pass the baton to as captains, and I would always tell the guys and say, hey, we only have one criteria only for our captain. You got to care about other people more than you care about yourself. That was our only criteria. And if you could find that guy, he didn't have to be the best player, but if he cared about the other guys and cared about the team, he's definitely going to be your captain. And I would say, like Brighton, we had a lot of guys like Colin and Kurt and Logan in our program that really did care about the other guys more than they cared about themselves. And it shows in the success both on and off the ice. So I couldn't be in more of an agreement with you on that subject. But I would like to talk about Logan a little bit, and then I'd like while I'm talking to Logan, I'd like you guys, Kurt and Colin, to think of some coach stories. Maybe we can dig up at least a little bit of dirt. There's got to be one water bottle he threw in his whole career. He was a coach for 40 years. He had to lose it at least once. But I'll let you think about that, and we'll talk to Logan here. Logan, I'm looking at your bio, and another guy who played a couple years of JV. It seems like a common theme there. I know Brighton has a good program, so it's really difficult for a freshman or even a sophomore to make the varsity team. So there's got to be a development process there. But it looks like that you've had that same path, a couple years of JV and then varsity, and some mega success on the varsity team, and now playing in college. Can you just maybe comment a little bit how Brighton High School's helped you to get to where you are today, or how it influenced your career?
Yeah, for sure. Similar to everyone else on the call, I think JV was fundamental in my success. I was actually just super fortunate and happy that I made JV as a freshman. I was in a little bit of a battle to make JV my freshman year, and I think more than anything, when I think back on my freshman year at Brighton, I only played 2 or 3 games on the JV team, but just my development off the ice as an individual is where I feel like I grew the most. I came from AAA. I was a AAA kid growing up, so for me, hockey was always individualistic in nature. And obviously, when you get to Brighton, it couldn't be more different. And I think for me, getting away from that individualistic culture and getting in that like collective space and realizing it's so much bigger than yourself was just so big for me as a human being, more than a hockey player. And then obviously my second year on JV, competed for some time, and I think that was good for my development to kind of build my competitive nature. And then same thing as these guys. When I got to the varsity, it wasn't about myself or what was to come next. It was just about being ready every day. I guess I got the trait of hating to lose from Kurt my junior year, because our process was never looking to CompuWare or looking for state championships. It was just doing the right things every week to be prepared for the weekend or our midweek game, and then hoping for the best results. But it was keeping our focus directed and not getting outside each individual week, and I think that boded well for us down the stretch. And obviously, when I look back at my time in Brighton, it's some of the memories that I cherish the most in my life.
I agree. Yeah, if you look at all the good teams, not only in high school but in college, and even in at the pro level, almost all good teams are process orientated, right? They stick with the process. They don't worry about the end goal, right? You're not thinking about CompuWare. You're just thinking about getting better week to week, and staying with the process. Whether you're building a power play or you're working on your forecheck or whatever, from week to week, you just got to know that you're getting incrementally better all the time. And when you get to the end, when the playoffs come, hopefully that, the process is worked well like it's supposed to, and you're playing, and the team is playing well, and the chemistry's good, and, all the pieces fall into place. I don't know if you know this, I think you probably do, but your dad played for me growing up as a kid, probably for 4 years in AAA hockey when I first started coaching. So we're going to go back to maybe the late 70s. And your dad was a heck of a player. He was a real even keeled kid growing up. I mean, really even keeled. He was a great player, great skills, but he wasn't the rah-rah kind of guy. And he had a great career. I mean, he played in the NHL. Had a great junior career, played college hockey, had a great college career, played in the NHL, played minor league hockey. What influence has your dad had on you in your hockey career, even though he was a defenseman and you're a goalie? I'm not sure if there's anybody that's a non-goalie qualified to even speak to a goalie, let alone give them advice. But my middle son was a goalie, and he was a little different. No disrespect there, but I could never give him any advice. So has your dad had any positive influence on you at all as far as the position of goaltender?
Yeah, absolutely. He always jokes around. He doesn't know what went wrong for me to become a goalie, but
yeah, exactly.
I mean, similar to a lot of the people on this call, I think it was a blessing that I was a different position path as him, because like you said, it's a different world being a goalie and a defenseman. But I mean, more than anything, like you said, it's just a human being that he is. He's definitely one of the most humble people I've ever met in my life. I didn't know he played in the NHL until I was 12 years old. One of my classmates told me, which says enough about him. But yeah, just teaching me life lessons, how to carry myself, how to represent something bigger than myself, and how to treat other people. And I mean, it's an absolute blessing to be able to be raised with a dad like that and a human being like that.
Yeah, he's very even keeled, and I'm sure that if you peeled back the onion a little bit, you'd probably find some good stories in there somewhere, because there's always good hockey stories somewhere in there. But Yeah, he was a great player growing up as a little guy, and then we kind of separated ways. I went and coached junior hockey. He went and played junior hockey. But yeah, I could see that there was a future in hockey for him. He played for the right reasons, just like all you guys stated earlier. Like, he enjoyed the game. I don't think he felt any pressure. Your grandpa Pete, I knew him very well. He was a pretty excitable guy. He had high blood pressure, and I remember him coming to some of the games. He was always worried about Pat, your dad Pat, but Pat was so even keeled. He was such a good guy to such a good teammate for such a young kid. I could see that there was a future for him. But I want to segue back to Kurt here for a minute, and I gave you a few minutes here to think of a good story about the coach, and maybe him firing a stick or two, or a water bottle, or something. I know it's probably didn't happen, but if we got to make something up, let's make it up.
I might have to correct the details on this one, but I do remember one. It might have been the first year we went on our UP trip. We went up and played up in Calumet, and I don't remember if it was Houghton or Hancock. And this Sunday afternoon, we're on the way home, and we stopped to stretch our legs along US 2. And one of the assistant coaches was joking with a couple of guys and said, "I'll give you $100 if you jump in Lake Michigan." And it was dumb. Our whole team walked out on the ice, and we were like a tenth of a mile off the shore, and there's like piles of ice everywhere, and we're out in the lake, which is incredibly dumb to begin with. And at least one, if not two of the guys, I don't remember, but at least one of them jumped in, geared down, jumped in the lake in their underwear, and then we all sprinted back onto the bus. And the guy said, "No, I'm not paying up," or whatever it was. And Paul's like, "Nope, you said you are. You're paying him $100." So Paul stuck to his guns, and the kid got his money.
Those are fun stories. We did that Calumet trip for 27 years, and we had a home and home with Calumet. Every other year they'd come down and play us, and then we'd go up there on the, can't remember if it was the odd or the even years, but we did it for 27 years. I think they're still doing it, so it's probably carried on. Now it's 29 years, but we'd go up the first weekend in December after our Thanksgiving tournament, and we'd get up there and there'd be 16 inches of snow on the ground, and we did some of that dumb stuff too that the guys remember, right? They remember those times. Going out in the snow and making snow angels, or just doing something crazy, but nobody got hurt. It wasn't super dangerous, but it could, if that ice breaks and the whole team goes under, I'm sure Paul would have been a little upset. But
I wouldn't be here right now.
He'd still be in jail. But yeah, no, those are good stories. How about you, Colin? What do you have for us?
Oh boy, I don't know. I've gotten my butt chewed by coach a couple times, but I don't know. Probably just one little ongoing joke that we'd always give coaches. I don't know if Logs, but if you ever look at coach during practice, if you just look at his skates, like, you swear to God the things are slip-ons, number one, because he never ties them. But I remember one day we were playing. I don't know. We'd marinate in the locker room for hours after practice, just hanging out. But I remember one day we were playing baseball in the locker room, and one of the guys hit a tape ball or something over towards his stall, and we pick and it went into coach's stall, and we look at his skates. Man, I swear to God, those skates have to be from back when coach was actually playing, because we were looking at them and we were just having a meltdown laughing at these things. But no, that was just a joke that we'd always give coach, man. It was just
those skates were hand-me-downs from Damon. And I asked my wife to get them sharpened one day. She'd take them over to Perfect Edge, and old Mike there said, here's three pairs of skates. Take them home. We can't sharpen these anymore. And I said, no, take them back. I'm not getting new skates. I don't need new skates. So finally, he convinced me to get these new skates. And the first time I put them on was picture day. I don't know if you remember this, Kurt, but I put on these new skates. They feel weird. and I couldn't skate from the bench out to where we were going to stand for the picture. So I took him back and said we got to do something. So he rockered them differently, and they turned out to be pretty awesome. But yeah, those skates were. I should have saved them. They were bad.
So
they were slip-ons.
You should take those skates and you guys should hang them on the wall in the locker room. That's what you should do. We did that with one of our assistant coaches. He had the old plastic boots, and they were relics. And you guys should take those, hang them on the wall in the dressing room. You guys will love that. Logan, what do you got for us?
Mine's not as good as the skates, even though I've got plenty of good skate stories. I'm never going to forget Sam Brennan having the skates on at the all-night party and coach walking in when Sam had the skates on his feet. It's probably one of the funniest moments of my high school career. I remember we all looked over at the door and saw Coach walk in, and all our faces are bright red, and he just starts laughing with us. And I'm never going to forget that one. But the one that comes to mind for me was, it is kind of a weird context. So not a lot of people know, down the stretch of the 2017 year, so my senior year, we were actually struggling pretty bad, like the last 5-6 games. Like we were finding ways to lose games, honestly. And sometimes that's hockey, that's life. Things don't always go your way. But I remember Coach Kurt and Paul pulling me out into the hallway to just talk to me about it. And it was like one of those things where I hadn't been playing my best, and they kind of just brought that to my attention. They're like, what do you think's going on? All these things. And I remember I was just overthinking everything. I'm like, all these different things in my head. I'm like, you know, it's your senior year. You want to win a state championship so bad. You're going into playoff. You haven't won that many games. And I just remember like sputtering all these answers, couldn't think. I'm like trying to collect my thoughts, and coach just looking at me. He's like, it's going to be all right. We've got this. He gets his classic Coach Paul smile, and I'm looking back, and I smile back, and I'm like, look at Kurt. I'm like, yeah, well, this is all going to be all right. You know, I believe you. Like, and there's that trust. And I remember just giving them both a hug, went back in the locker room, and
I think there's more to the story, though, Logan. I think you're leaving the most critical part out of this.
Which part is that?
When you dumped your girlfriend.
Yeah, no, actually, that was placebo. That was placebo. That's
The
another
truth comes
story.
out.
We went on a little
That
bit.
is the same time, and your performance went up.
Yeah,
in the next month.
It was funny. Yeah, we went on a little skid, and I got a girlfriend around the same time. And I remember going to the locker room and just telling the boys, I was like, yeah, guys, don't worry. I got rid of her. And then all of a sudden, everyone's excited for practice, and there goes the wins. So it was funny.
Whatever it was, it worked because we won the 6 playoff games, obviously. And Logs only gave up 4 goals in 6 games and none in the third period. So,
wow. And got a date that Sunday.
They always take you back if you have a state championship.
I don't think he's had one since. He learned the lesson.
That's good stuff, boys. Good stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking about your journey, and each one of you guys could be the poster child for high school hockey. I mean, I hope there's some families out there that watch this podcast. And there's a lot they could really get out of this from what you guys said and what Coach said. And, I mean, the program there is great. And, the legacy continues. I'm really happy that we got a chance to chat. I wanted to kind of follow up with Paul's story about the skates. I never sharpened my skates either, Coach. Never sharpened them. In fact, I never taped my stick. So every once in a while, maybe every 5 years, one of the players would look at it. You know how the tape gets off. It looks like laundry on there. I mean, it doesn't even stick anymore. So Casey Wellman gave me a stick. It was an old yellow composite stick. I had it for like 6 years, and I never taped it. So one day, one of the guys said, "Hey, Coach, you got to tape your stick. It's just the optics are bad. Like, this doesn't look right." So he taped the stick up. My son, Andy Jr., was coaching with me. And he walks into the locker room like Mr. Magoo, and he sees the stick, right? He goes, hey, Dad, that's a nice – yeah, I see you taped your stick. He takes it out of the stall, takes it outside, takes one slap shot, and breaks it. And I had the stick for 6 years. Never take it once.
That's the tape that broke it.
Paul had a wood one, so he didn't have to worry about that. He used a Sherwood still.
Yeah,
Sherwood.
Yeah,
I lost. I think I inherited a stick from Damon again, the handy bee down, and I think I left it in Houghton. Got back and didn't have a stick, and I thought, I don't need a real good stick here. I'm just leaning on it. So
right,
I
exactly.
got a Sherwood.
Speaking of that, the other funny
Sticks.
thing, Colin might remember this too. We would do some small area games when it was just me and Paul coaching, towards the end of his career. And, it'd be some of that stuff where you'd have to pass it to one coach and get it back. And we'd always chuckle because Paul wouldn't even attempt to catch the pass. He would just have the puck waiting there and pass that one to the guys.
That's right.
We always
Yeah.
get a kick out of that.
Well, they had to be good passes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what it was.
I like that. That's working smart.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, that's right. No sense in trying to catch the pass and return it. That's too much work.
I think there's something about coaches and their sticks because Coach Riley here at Army last year he broke his stick, the blade of his stick, in one of our I couldn't tell. I think it was game 5 or game 6, and we won that weekend. We swept that weekend, so we kept using the stick, and we went on a 13-game win streak. And he kept using every practice. He would use the stick, and the whole blade was literally dangling. So guys would pass him pucks and to see if he'd try to catch him. He wouldn't catch him. So he's a little superstitious in that aspect. But no, it's pretty goofy.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, thanks again for sharing your stories and taking time out of your busy schedules. And good luck with all your future endeavors. Kurt, good luck this season, Brighton, and Coach, good luck in your retirement. Enjoy life. I've been retired 2 years down here in Florida. It's not so bad. My golf game is improving all the time, and life is good down here. Other than it's a little hot in the summer, but yeah, guys, thanks again. I hope there's some families out there that get a chance to watch this podcast and hear your stories, because it is really a remarkable journey that you guys took to get where you're at. And in some instances, I think you've defied the odds in terms of not taking the normal path. But again, congrats on everything, and thanks for being here today, and good luck going forward.